Meet Fan Yu, the male lead whose entire existence screams life on hard mode. If bad luck were a job, this guy would have been employee of the month every month. He gets beat up at school, ghosted by people he tries to save, and even his mom treats him like a spam email. Instantly deleted. Just when you think he's about to respawn in despair, he meets Xiaan, and so begins a situationship where our boy goes from chain-smoking loser to accidental boy toy, all while wondering if he's in love or just being scammed with free kisses. Fan Yu often felt his life resembled a nightmare he could never wake from, no matter how hard he struggled. The more he fought, the deeper he sank, until the day she appeared. Fan Yu pressed his lips against Xiaan's, deepening the kiss. She called out for him while he wondered if he was not allowed to ask her to stop treating him like a child. He admitted to himself that he was far greedier than she believed, which left Xiaan flustered. She hesitated briefly as she began undressing herself, wrapping her hands around him while remarking with embarrassment, asking what was with the empty gaze and if he felt frightened now, and yet reflected that she had been like a light shining in the depths of his despair. He considered her his salvation. As he soothed her, her hand rested upon his cheek, and he remarked that he never even had time to love her enough. At a quiet place near the bridge, Fan Yu, with bruises all over his face and body, stood with his lighter, realizing how late it had become. He wondered if buses were still running, but excused it with the thought that it hardly mattered, since there was no point in returning home. From beginning to end, he felt he had always been alone, nothing more than a fool. In the morning, Mary, Fan Yu's friend, cried out at a bully to release her, while the bully demanded she stop ignoring him like that. He told her not to fear, since he would be gentle, reaching to grab her, though Mary quickly shook her head in protest. Suddenly, Fan Yu intervened, seizing the bully's hand and warning him not to touch her. Anger flared in the bully as he demanded to know who Fan Yu thought he was, cursing at him and yelling for him to leave. He even mocked that once finished with her, perhaps he would hand her over. His words, however, were silenced when Fan Yu's fist struck him, drawing blood from his mouth. The bully retaliated by kicking Fan Yu down while his companions joined in the beating. Just then, one of them muttered that it was enough and mentioned someone might have gone to fetch the instructor. Still, the bully raged, insisting he would not let Fan Yu escape, and they dragged him aside. Fan Yu glanced toward Mary, stepping closer as he asked softly if she was all right, and reached to touch her. Mary recoiled instantly, screaming for him not to touch her, shouting that he was no different from the others and that he made her sick. In that painful moment, Fan Yu realized she still had not changed. She continued to hate him just as she had in the past. Perhaps she was right. Maybe someone like him truly was nothing more than repulsive. As he lit his cigarette, the flame stung him until he let it drop, muttering to himself that it burned like hell. From his side came the sudden sound of a light chuckle, followed by the voice of a woman gently apologizing. Fan Yu felt quite confused by the girl's reaction, turning his face away while wondering since when she had been there. He recalled how she had just laughed at him when suddenly she broke the silence, explaining in a gentle tone that she had not been laughing at him. She gave him a quick glance, asking softly if he was in a bad mood, which he denied. Still, she remarked that it did not look that way, asking what was wrong, whether he was okay, and if perhaps he needed some help. Taking a moment, Fan Yu questioned inwardly what was with this person and why she was suddenly talking to him without any reason. He observed her closely, thinking she looked so pretty that she hardly even seemed real. He wondered what exactly she was after. Fan Yu refused politely, thanking her, when the girl suddenly glanced at the cigarette between his fingers. Without hesitation, she reached to take it from him, warning that if he did not put it out soon, his fingers would get burned. She crushed it firmly, leaving him in silence. The girl then suggested in a calm tone that he could treat her like a tree hollow and vent his feelings if he wished. She reasoned that it was often easier to open up to a stranger, as there was no need to worry about what the other person might think or whether they would share it with someone else. She mentioned that if it were her, she would want someone like that when struggling. She asked what he thought about the idea and if he would consider venting to her even just once. Seeing the sparkle in her eyes and the warmth of her smile, Fan Yu became more convinced that she seemed suspicious. He questioned in his mind who would go out of their way to care about the emotions of a complete stranger. He firmly stated that he had already said he did not need such a thing, adding that if she had nothing else to say, he would leave. He picked up his bag to move out, thinking that even if she had no hidden intention, telling her about his troubles would never change anything. To him, it would only serve as a painful reminder of how pathetic he already felt. Besides, he had always known that talking about such matters never truly helped. Later, Fan Yu came across a woman while she smoked, and she questioned him about why he was even there. Gathering courage, he told her that he wanted to drop out. The woman, who was none other than his mother, frowned sharply, asking what nonsense he was coming up with now. She questioned him, asking what had happened at school and why he could not just focus on his studies instead of troubling her further. Fan Yu declared that if she allowed him to drop out this time, he would not bother her again, as he would be leaving this place for good. His mother challenged his words, words, asking where he would even go, insisting he had nowhere. She told him sternly not to come to her spouting such nonsense and ordered him to behave. In frustration, Fan Yu grabbed the cigarette box from her hand, addressing her as his mother. In response, she screamed at him never to call her that in public and ordered him to go home immediately. She asked if he had come there only to discuss such nonsense, questioning if he thought she had nothing better to do, which ignited his anger. Furious, Fan Yu shouted back, asking if she had ever truly cared about him, since she always knew why he did not want to return to school. He accused her of never paying attention to him, saying that the only way he could ever speak with her was by coming all the way there to meet her. His mother looked at him coldly as Fan Yu questioned what the point of it all was. He insisted that no matter what he said, she would never care anyway. With pain in his voice, he asked if he was not her child. His mother yelled at him to stop, telling him to do whatever he wanted since she no longer cared, and warning him not to bother her again. Standing there, Fan Yu realized that perhaps some people in the world were simply born only to be hated. He remembered countless whispers and curses directed at him. People had said that he was exactly the reason they did not want their children spending time with him. That was why he had been sent to a private school. They all knew that his mother worked as a hostess who had seduced a married man, who eventually abandoned them both and ran away. For that reason, other parents never wanted him in their circles. Fan Yu wanted desperately to run away from everything, but deep down he believed that for someone like him, it would be the same no matter where he went. To him, he was someone naturally detestable. Suddenly, heavy rain began to fall. Fan Yu muttered to himself in disbelief, thinking it was just his luck. As water poured down, he recalled the strange woman from earlier. At that moment, he realized that he should have been worrying about himself, yet strangely, he found himself reaching out to her. As the rain poured harder, he held his bag above her, giving her shelter from the downpour. Right after that, Fan Yu found himself caught in an awkward situation, realizing that he had completely misunderstood. Her home was just nearby, which explained why she had shown no concern at all when it started raining. She casually invited him to come in and take shelter, and he, without thinking twice, followed her like a lost puppy. As he stood at her doorstep, he sighed to himself, remarking inwardly that the rain was pouring harder than ever, and he truly had no place to go. The young woman welcomed him warmly. She told him not to worry, mentioning that she lived alone and he could leave his shoes wherever he wished. Fan Yu hesitated as he glanced down at his soaked clothes and dripping shoes. She noticed his unease and asked him what was wrong. Fan Yu explained that he was drenched, and if he stepped inside like this, he would only leave a trail of water everywhere. Her eyes suddenly wandered toward his torso. Taking a quick peek at his abs, she reached out and tugged lightly at his shirt, only to discover bruises spread across his skin. She gasped at the sight, realizing how severe they were, wondering to herself what in the world could have happened to him. Feeling embarrassed under her gaze, Fan Yu quickly grabbed her hand, questioning what exactly she was trying to do. He made it clear in his thoughts that although he had followed her here, it was not because he expected anything to happen between them. The girl tilted her head in confusion, asking what he meant by that. Before Fan Yu could fumble for an answer, she calmly said that since he was soaking wet, she would fetch a towel so he could dry off. She asked him to wait while she disappeared inside. Fan Yu stood awkwardly, finding the situation strange. He wondered to himself if she really did not intend to make a move on him. Should he simply dry off and then leave once the rain lessened? As he looked around her home, his eyes caught several framed family photographs. Some even carried autographs. Judging from those images, it seemed she must have lived a fulfilling, happy life, surrounded by warmth. Yet he noticed that in a few pictures, her eyes carried an expression that looked as if it hid a quiet loneliness. He brushed away the thought, convincing himself that he was only overanalyzing. Soon, she called for him again, urging him to sit down on the couch. Fan Yu shook his head, saying it was fine, as he did not want to dirty her furniture. Besides, he thought the rain might ease up soon, so perhaps it was best if he left. She denied his reasoning immediately, insisting the rain would not pass so quickly, and asked if he was in such a rush to get back home. Fan Yu admitted to himself that he was not. With no bus or train running at that hour, returning was impossible. Curious, she asked if he lived in Taipei and where he had come from. He told her that he was from Taichung. She tilted her head again, questioning why he had come all the way out here. Fan Yu had no clear answer. He reflected bitterly on the events of that day, thinking about Mary and his mother. He realized he only wanted to escape from everything, to run anywhere but back home. Seeing the troubled look on his face, the girl gently brushed his shoulder and handed him a cup of hot water. She told him that it was already late and suggested he stay for the night. If he felt uneasy, he could always call his family first. Her words left him quiet for a moment. He admitted inwardly that it did not really matter, since no one cared where he was anyway. Hearing his response, the girl gave him a soft smile. She remarked that such a statement was dangerous, and asked if he was not afraid she might be a bad person. What if she tied him up and kept him here? Fan Yu found himself puzzled again, wondering why she said such odd things. He could not grasp why she was being so kind to him. The whole situation felt unreal, as if it were some sort of trap. trap. By the next morning, Fan Yu was sleeping on the couch when he suddenly felt someone hovering over him. The girl had bent down too close, peering at his face. Fan Yu awoke in shock, his heart racing, as he demanded to know what she was trying to do. She calmly answered that she was simply checking if he had slept well. Flustered, Fan Yu admitted to himself how close she had been before replying that he had indeed slept just fine. The girl straightened up and told him she had to head to work. Since it was still early, he could rest longer if he wished. Fan Yu shook his head, saying he should leave now. He pulled out his phone, thinking about the harsh words he had thrown at his mother yesterday. He had not gone home, so she was probably furious with him. But when he checked, he saw no missed calls and no messages. The silence struck him harder than he expected. The girl noticed his heavy expression and asked if something was wrong. He denied it, saying it was nothing. Stepping closer to him, she suggested that maybe he did not really want to leave. She offered to let him stay, saying that she could take care of him if he allowed it. Hearing those words, Fan Yu felt bewildered, especially when the girl seemed to love the situation. She teased him, saying that since he hesitated, his heart must have fluttered just now. The remark made Fan Yu nervous, and he quickly denied it, insisting inwardly that nothing of the sort had happened. The girl, however, ended the conversation, claiming she could not chat anymore, as she truly needed to leave. She promised that they would talk about everything else once she returned, and told him to make himself at home before stepping out. After she left, Fan Yu remained frozen, processing what had just happened. He was shocked that she would leave him, a complete stranger, inside her home without hesitation. He muttered to himself that she was strange, but admitted she did not seem like a bad person. Compared to his own mother, she was probably the only one who had ever shown him this much kindness. At this hour, his mother would usually be home. He would always run into her whenever he left for school, so she must have realized he had not come back. Yet, she had asked nothing about him. He wondered if she was still furious about yesterday. Perhaps this silence was her way of completely giving up on him. The scene shifted toward the girl. Away from her role, she suddenly broke character, frustrated, questioning aloud what they were even doing and why finding one person had become so difficult. She exclaimed that everyone around her was driving her insane. During the filming, the camera focused on her face, but after the scene ended, an assistant entered, calling her name, Xiaan, while asking if she wanted some water. Xiaan told her to leave it on the table. The assistant then relayed that the director planned to reshoot a few more takes later, and Xiaan simply nodded in understanding. Soon after, the assistant called to her as well, remarking that she could not believe the second female lead had received so little screen time. She complained that Xiaan had worked hard just to secure this role, yet it felt frustrating to be sidelined. Xiaan, however, dismissed the complaint, stating that she only got this opportunity because of her father's connections. The assistant agreed, but insisted that even if her acting was not remarkable, her saving grace was that photogenic face of hers, which was undeniably striking. Yet despite that, she still barely received any meaningful screen time. The assistant then brought up her father, asking if he had mentioned anything about her fiancé again. Xiaan recalled that just yesterday her father had informed her that he would be returning next month. He had already contacted him, mentioning how long it had been since he last saw that young man. He believed the boy must have grown more handsome by now. Xiaan had remained quiet, not giving an answer. The assistant pressed further, questioning whether this meant the two of them would soon be married. Irritated, Xiaan quickly grabbed her assistant's mouth, glaring sharply, and demanded that she shut up for at least 5 minutes before she talked her to death. She added that her assistant should not bother driving her back later, since she intended to call a ride herself. Her assistant asked for the reason. Xiaan explained that she had barely slept last night and instructed her to make sure her car was brought back for her. With that, Xiaan left, while the assistant muttered curses under her breath. Inside the taxis, yet Xiaan leaned back, exhaustion weighing her down. She wanted nothing more than to eat a huge meal and collapse into sleep, yet her mind drifted back to the guy she had met. She realized with a start that she had never even asked his name. His face from last night stood out in her memory, so soft, pale, and delicate, yet covered in bruises that looked painful. She thought that despite those marks, he was completely her type. He seemed younger than her, especially from the way he reacted. She found him pure, almost innocent, and undeniably cute. Still, her curiosity grew as she wondered how he had received such bruises. Though thin, his body had been fit, his muscles tight against his frame. She admitted to herself that she wanted a closer look, imagining for a moment the thought of running her hand down and exploring further. Her cheeks burned instantly as she realized what she was thinking. She scolded herself, embarrassed for fantasizing so recklessly in broad daylight. When she finally reached home, she remembered the bold words she had thrown earlier, inviting him to stay. She cursed at herself, thinking what kind of line that had even been. What if he thought she was some kind of weirdo? Now it was far too late to feel embarrassed. She convinced herself that he must have already left. They might never meet again, which she found disappointing. If she had known things would end this way, she would have acted differently last night. Perhaps she would have taken the initiative before letting her hesitation ruin the moment. As she pushed open the door and stepped inside, her heart nearly stopped. Standing there right before her eyes was Fan Yu. She froze in surprise, unprepared to see him, still waiting for her. Fan Yu muttered that he had heard a sound at the door and assumed it was her, so he went to open it. Xiaan thanked him, admitting she thought he would have already left. Fan Yu explained that he had fallen asleep again, and when he woke up, it was already this late. He then questioned her, reminding her that she had told him to stay. Hearing this, Xiaan turned slightly embarrassed. Fan Yu wondered aloud if she had only said it said casually, but she denied it, insisting that of course she had meant it that way. She explained that she was just a little surprised, then asked him directly if he was implying that he wanted to stay. Fan Yu affirmed with hesitation that if it was fine with her, he wanted to stay for a while. Inwardly, he admitted to himself how ridiculous the request was, but he also thought that this was his only chance to escape from everything behind him. If in his mother's eyes he was nothing more than a mistake anyway, then perhaps disappearing would be the best thing, just as his own mother had always wanted. After a moment, Fan Yu called out to her again, confessing there was something he did not understand. He questioned why she was being so kind to him when they did not even know each other. Last night she had approached him first, spoken to him, and then let him stay in her home to avoid the rain. Now she was telling him he could remain there even longer. He wondered aloud if she had some hidden motive. Xiaan, however, found the situation amusing. She had not expected things to turn this way, yet she thought it was funny. As she walked closer to him, she remarked that he truly did not know her motive. She teased that she had assumed he already knew, and that was why he had chosen to stay. With a playful push, she revealed that it was obviously because she was into his body. As long as he kept her entertained, she promised to give him anything he wanted. Embarrassed beyond belief, Fan Yu denied it loudly, stammering that he might not even be very good at such things. The realization of what he had just said made his face burn even hotter. Xiaan tilted her head and questioned whether he was still a virgin, remarking that it could be a problem since she felt she could no longer wait. She admitted with a smirk that she wanted to devour him right then. Without missing a beat, Fan Yu found himself with Xiaan together, enjoying a satisfying lunch, with Xiaan remarking that she'd finally got to eat some proper meat after starving for so long. She asked if he had eaten at all during the day. Fan Yu suspected she was deliberately making such remarks to fluster him, as though she was teasing him into believing she truly meant what she said earlier. He cursed inwardly, blaming himself for always falling for it. As the meal continued, Xiaan pointed out that they had not yet introduced themselves properly. She revealed her name as Xiaan, then asked his. Fan Yu introduced himself as Zhang Fan Yu. Xiaan smiled, saying she would call him by that name from now on. She encouraged him to eat more, since later they would head out together to buy daily necessities, clothes and other essentials. She guessed he probably had not brought anything with him, and added that if he needed something else, he only needed to let her know. Fan Yu thanked her sincerely, though he mentioned the money she was spending on him and promised he would pay her back later. Xiaan waved off the concern, telling him not to worry about the money but instead to focus on building up his body. She remarked to herself that he looked so cute, as though still new to the world, easy to fool, and strangely pure. She sensed he could not be that much younger than her, though his face appeared annoyingly youthful. Xiaan, unable to hide her curiosity, asked him directly about his age. Fan Yu panicked inwardly, thinking that if she found out he was only 17, she would not let him stay. After a moment of hesitation, he declared that he was 20, silently praying she would believe it. Xiaan nodded knowingly, remarking that she had figured as much, and acknowledging the small age gap between them. The smaller the crowd, more of the smart boys, he said, were probably the smaller. She teased that he must still be in school. Fan Yu quickly explained that it was summer break, which gave him the freedom to stay. Xiaan chuckled, saying she had almost forgotten that summer break was a thing, before asking what had made him decide to stay. She suggested it was time for him to share his reason. Fan Yu cursed inwardly, realizing that his earlier caution had come back to trouble him. He could not exactly admit it was because he was underage and needed someone to rely on. He decided it was best to dodge the question for now, asking her if he could explain later since he did not yet know how to put it into words. Xiaan studied his expression, concluding it must be something difficult to talk about. She shrugged it off, thinking that no matter the reason, it hardly mattered. As long as he could make her life more interesting, she would not care, at least until that certain person returned. She told him gently to share his story when he felt ready. Until then, he could relax and stay there without worry. She added with a grin that this noona here would take good care of him, and if he ever wanted to lose his virginity, she could help him with that as well. The words sent shivers throughout Fan Yu's body, making him plead with her to keep her voice down. He thought to himself that living with her from this point forward might mean he could finally live a peaceful life, but he would later realize that things were nowhere near as simple as he imagined, as an unexpected closeness began to form between them. At home, Fan Yu was drinking large gulps of water, feeling both relieved and grateful. Yesterday, he had only planned to buy a few daily necessities, but somehow he had ended up with far more than he expected. He thought that there was hardly a difference now between him and a gold digger. With a shake of his head, he brushed the thought aside, convincing himself that since he was already living there, he might as well abandon his useless pride. At the very least, he was thankful that he was sleeping in the guest room. If Xiaan had insisted on making him sleep in her bed, he would have been in a truly difficult situation. Just as he was lost in thought, Xiaan came from behind and hugged him tightly, asking what he was spacing out for. Startled, Fan Yu choked and spat out all the water he had been drinking. Xiaan quickly asked if he was all right, while Fan Yu thought to himself that at this rate he was going to die. What he needed most urgently was to get used to her sudden and unpredictable physical contact. At that moment, Xian, Shajizan's assistant, entered the room carrying a cake, only to see Shajizan hugging Fan Yu. An awkward silence filled the space until Shajizan, sounding annoyed, asked why Xian had come at such an hour. Xian replied that she had driven her car back and thought she might as well bring something along. As she tried to take a peek at Fan Yu, Xiantian stepped in between them and asked if she could not have at least given notice before coming. Xiantian reminded her that she had always been told she could drop by any time, adding that the boss had asked her to deliver this. Xiaxian questioned her about the box, and Xiantian explained that it was a fresh cream roll from a very famous shop. She added that it was incredibly delicious and usually required waiting in line. Before she could finish, Xiaxian snatched the box and told her to leave. Xiantian grabbed her hand and asked if she could at least have one slice before going, adding teasingly that she wanted to meet Xiaxian's boyfriend. Just then, Xiaxian's phone rang. It was Xian. Xiaxian thought immediately that she had known it. He never acted nice unless he wanted something. She excused herself to take the call. Meanwhile, Fan Yu cut the roll and noticed Xiantian's sparkling eyes fixed on it. Xiantian glanced at him with curiosity and remarked that she had not expected Xiaxian to be secretly dating. She teased further that Xiaxian was into younger men, something she had never imagined. Fan Yu tried to clarify that things were not exactly like that. Yet, as he hesitated, wondering how he should explain their strange relationship, his mind went blank. He realized that it was easier to keep quiet, otherwise it might sound like he was no different from a sugar baby. He questioned inwardly what he was even supposed to call himself in this situation. When Xiantian asked what she should call him, Fan Yu introduced himself simply as Fan Yu. Xiantian smiled and said he could call her Xiaotian, explaining that she was Xiaojian's assistant. Fan Yu asked about her job, wondering what exactly Xiaojian did. Xiantian seemed shocked that he did not even know what Xiaojian's family did. Fan Yu admitted that they had not really talked about it. Xiantian paused before saying that they must still be in the early stage, but since he seemed likable, she would reveal a little secret. She explained that Xiaojian was the daughter of a large home appliances conglomerate. Her father had hoped she would one day take over the family business, but Xiaojian had shown no interest in it. Instead, she had been using her beauty and charisma to pursue a career in showbiz. Xiaojian then paused and suddenly connected the dots. She realized that Xiaojian must have seemed distracted at work, not because she wanted to return to the family business, but because she had been busy with him. Xiantian muttered that no wonder Xiaojian had been so irritated when her fiancé was mentioned. Then, realizing what she had just revealed, Xiantian cursed herself under her breath. Xiaojian soon returned, and Xiantian quickly told Fan Yu to be careful not to let this supposed relationship interfere with Xiaojian's acting career. Xiaojian asked impatiently why she was still there. Xiaojian replied that she was leaving, quickly taking a bite of roll before bidding farewell to Fan Yu. Later that night, Fan Yu and Xiaojian sat together watching television. A subtle awkwardness lingered between them until Xiaojian asked if he was always this stiff. She told him to relax and simply be himself while he was at home. Fan Yu thought silently that her idea of home was probably very different from his own. He remembered living with his mother, though their schedules rarely matched. Even when they saw each other, they barely spoke. For the most part, he had always been alone, and that solitude had defined his childhood. Now, having someone sitting beside him, watching television together, eating meals and chatting, it all felt so unreal, almost like a dream he had never thought he would experience. As Xiaojian rested her head on his shoulder, Fan Yu recalled Xiantian's words about her family. The thought lingered heavily in his mind. They truly came from two different worlds. He was the one who had entangled her with a lie, yet she was the one offering him warmth and comfort. He wondered quietly if he even deserved it. Breaking the silence, he asked if she did not doubt him. He admitted that he had told her nothing about himself, and yet here he was, freeloading in her home. He questioned if she still trusted him despite that. Xiaojian remarked that it was a sudden question and asked if he was actually referring to why he stayed with her. She said that if he had not left, it must be because he had his reasons. Rather than calling it trust, she explained that it was simply because he gave off no dangerous aura, and besides, how could this be freeloading when they had already made a deal? Fan Yu fell silent at her words, remembering what she had told him before, that as long as he kept her happy, she would give him everything he wanted. He thought deeply about it. Xiaojian then added that she did have one doubt, whether he had a girlfriend, which he denied. She pressed further, asking if he had never dated anyone or if there was at least someone he liked. Fan Yu thought that her questions were strange. She then asked if he had ever kissed someone. His heart raced, uncertain of the fluttering sensation rising in his chest. He could not explain what it was, but he knew one thing for sure. If he shamelessly dedicated himself to making her happy, perhaps this fragile bond between them could last a little longer. Summoning his courage, he asked softly if she could teach him. Xiaojian could hardly believe that he had never experienced something like this, remarking in disbelief if he was truly that innocent. Embarrassed, Fan Yu asked if she would teach him. The moment the words left his lips, he processed what he had just said, quickly turning his head again to deny it. He thought anxiously to himself that he must have lost his mind. What nonsense was he speaking? How could he even say something like that aloud? Xiaojian called his name firmly, asking him to turn back around. She told him not to be nervous and promised that she would guide him step by step. As she leaned closer, she gave him a gentle kiss. Then she drew back slightly, saying that if he wanted to continue, he should close his eyes. Fan Yu obeyed hesitantly, shutting his eyes as instructed. Xiaojian commented approvingly that it was good, before leaning in once more to kiss him properly. Fan Yu began sweating as he felt her lips press against his. His mind raced. Her lips were incredibly soft. soft, and though the television continued to make noise in the background, it felt as though his whole world had narrowed to this single moment. His body grew warm, as though a fire had been lit within him, and he found himself unable to move. Xiaan took his hand and gently placed it on her back. She whispered for him to open his mouth a little wider. Following her words, Fan Yu complied, and the next instant he felt her tongue slip into his mouth. Their saliva mixed as they exchanged deeper kisses, and Fan Yu's thoughts blurred completely. He could hardly control his body as his arms tightened around her instinctively. The intensity threatened to overwhelm him, and he thought frantically that he was about to lose control. Forcing himself to pull back, he separated from Xiaan. He thought desperately that this was dangerous. If it continued, he would truly lose himself. Standing abruptly, he insisted that the lesson was enough for now, claiming that he had already grasped the basics. He muttered awkwardly that perhaps next time they could continue, brushing it off with forced casualness. Without daring to meet her eyes, he excused himself, saying he would return to his room. As he walked out stiffly, Xiaan only gave a quiet, knowing smile. Inside his room, Fan Yu collapsed and cursed under his breath. He thought that he must have gone insane. Had he taken the wrong medication earlier? How could he have said something like that to her? He truly had not expected it to progress so far, and once it had, he had nearly been unable to stop himself. The next morning, Fan Yu ran into Xiaan and greeted her politely with a good morning. She asked curiously if he was up so early, and he replied that he was accustomed to waking early, though in truth he had hardly slept the entire night. Xiaan remarked that he must be a disciplined young man. Remembering the events of the previous night, Fan Yu's face turned red involuntarily. Xiaan immediately questioned if he was feeling unwell. He scolded himself silently for letting his mind wander back there. Xiaan leaned closer, asking teasingly if he was feeling hot. He quickly affirmed that it was indeed hot. She chuckled that young people were always burning up before asking if he was heading out. Fan Yu countered by asking if she herself was going out. She explained that she was planning to stop by the office, but it would not take long and she would return soon. Suddenly recalling something, she exclaimed that she had almost forgotten. They exchanged phone numbers and she set up his fingerprint on the front door, while also adding him as a friend on her phone. Just as she was leaving, she mentioned casually that when she returned, they should watch a movie together. Fan Yu nodded in agreement, and Xiaan waved goodbye cheerfully as she went out. Left alone, Fan Yu thought in frustration that she was acting completely normal. She behaved as if nothing had happened between them the previous night, while he was the one left flustered and restless. He cursed inwardly, wondering if he was truly the only one struggling with it. The thought left him both embarrassed and annoyed. At the office, as Xiaan entered, the director glanced to call her, addressing her as Brother Shen. A strikingly blonde beauty greeted her with a smile.